Welcome back to another episode of Rank It, Draft It, Bracket. I am your host, Josh, back again with my good buddy Derek. And Derek, today we are doing a little spin-off of a episode we did a few episodes ago, which was that NBA era draft, and we are going to do a uh, MLB starting pitching rotation era draft. Again, same concept. And if you didn't watch that previous video, go check it out. But the concept essentially is that we are going to pick a five starting pitchers, but we don't get their entire career. We only get maybe a selection of what we feel are their best years or whatnot, and we have to sometimes get a little creative to break it down. So, just before we kind of get into it in depth, you and I decided ahead of time we're going to try to limit sample sizes to less than 10 years or cap it at 10 years. I think in the basketball one, I chose a whole decade for one of my players. So we're gonna maybe try to stay away for that. And then also we wanted at least a sample size big enough to say at least one season, if not two seasons, I think, because there are some kind of, you know, I called it a cheat code in our text thread, you and I, but we want at least a big enough sample size to make this worth it.
And we didn't talk about this specific aspect before, but are we still limiting the one per team? So if you take someone, that whole team is gone.
Yeah, I definitely
Okay.
think we need to keep that up. And I thought there's only maybe a couple for me specifically that I wrote down that maybe get rid of. I think this one might be a little easier in terms of limiting the teams. Basketball was definitely a challenge, was definitely hard,
Yep.
but this one might be a little easier. But there are definitely some franchises that are have some multiple choices. That's for sure. So before we get into it, Derek, you have any thoughts on maybe what you looked at stats wise, or what you how you kind of ordered your board?
So my board is still kind of a mess right now, but one of the things I know I looked at, and so that I may reference here quite a bit, is like ERA plus.
Yep.
So just where, the performance ranked among the league at the time, essentially to like the league normal. Um, and uh, I also lean towards, dominance, which could mean a few different things. It could mean striking everybody out. It could also mean allowing no base runners, like
Yeah.
and a ridiculous low whip. So, kind of all the above. So it'll kind of be dependent on each different guy, but um, you know, also probably a slant towards guys that I enjoyed watching the most too.
Yeah.
Um, there'll be a heavy slant in the last 30 years or so. So
Yeah, I think I agree pretty much with everything you said. ERA plus, I'm glad you brought that up because that's what I looked at a lot too. It's just an adjusted earned run average to account for the time they played in, ballpark, opponent, league, all that stuff. So I think that's a good cross reference really, to see how well some of these pitchers did in previous years that we don't maybe have as much recollection of or never watched, as you said too. Yeah, I looked at some whip, but I stayed away from it a little bit. But there definitely was some prioritization that took place where guys had higher whips, and I was kind of like, maybe I'll stay away. For me, I also wrote down, some of the notes of like awards that were won, because I think that
oh
obviously
yeah.
signifies too as well. Like if they were given a Cy Young award, like in multiple years, then they were obviously voted on to be very dominant and very effective during that time period. So, Derek, we decided the order offline. You get the number one pick again. We are going to snake draft this, so it's going to be really 5 rounds. You're gonna go to you for one, and I get two back to back. Then you get two back to back, and so forth until we each have a full 5-man rotation. So, without further ado, Derek, go ahead and kick us off.
Yeah. So I'm not going to throw you a curveball like I did in the baseball or the basketball draft. And I will be going with Randy Johnson with my first pick.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and can I because I didn't talk this through clearly, can I just say his four Cy Young straight seasons,
Yeah,
or should I just pick like his first tenure in Arizona? It adds a little bit, but
that's what I had. I just wrote first stint for him, the Diamondbacks' first stint. I mean, it really only adds like what 2 seasons, I suppose, a
two
season and a
seasons
half.
and only like 50 starts, but because he got hurt in
You know,
2003. So
at 04, he was an all-star again, was pretty dominant. So I mean, I think it's
yeah,
okay definitely to add
don't
that
mind
one.
throwing that
So
on there.
okay.
Really. So, 6 straight years for 6 seasons, 193 starts, 103 wins out of that, 1,400 innings with, where did I say this? 1,800 strikeouts, so a smooth, 11.9 K per nine. Just blowing away everybody. 1.04 whip. So, no one's really getting on base, not really walking anybody, not allowing a lot of hits, just pure dominance, four straight Cy Youngs. Obviously, the World Series victory, where he comes in to, close it out in game 7. Just absolute dominance. This stretch of 99 to 02, strikeouts 364, 347, 372, 334. Like, I don't even
Unbelievable.
know the last time we had someone touch 300. Um,
I
it might
thought
have been then. Like, honestly, I don't know if,
I think Strider got close last year, but by close, I think maybe like in the high twos.
yeah.
I mean, like
Oh,
mid to high twos. So not
Kershaw hit 301 in
okay.
2015.
Okay.
So it's been done, but not, high 300s, almost 400, in some of these seasons. So just pure friggin' dominance. And for the years that he was healthy in that stretch, his lowest ERA plus was 176, which is just a phenomenal number.
Yeah, ridiculous. Great pick. Being a homer as
Right.
well.
Obviously,
I knew that's
we
I
got
knew
the
that's where whether I had the first pick or you had the first pick, that was what it was going to be. Absolutely. So, and we kind of discussed that offline, and so you already know where I'm going in here with my first pick, and I'm more than happy to have it. Which us being again Diamondbacks fans, local kids, we obviously side with the RJ for the greatest stretch of pitching domination there, but there's many other baseball fans that will side with this next player that I'm picking, which is Red Sox Pedro Martinez. Again, just dominant. I have 1998 through 2004 written down. During that stretch, pitcher wins are what they are, but 117 and 37, a 2.52 ERA, over 1,600 Ks, a 190 ERA plus. So again, that means 90% better than the league average during those years. Just south of a 11 K per nine with 10.9 there, and then did win 2 Cy Youngs. Looking at some of the stats he led the league in as well. Did lead the league in wins once, winning percentage 3 times. Again, that whether that matters or not to some people. Led the league in ERA 4 times. Led the league, and this is American League, obviously, but led the league in strikeouts 3 times. Did get over 300 in 1999 as well. Again, ERA plus was outstanding. Whip, you had mentioned Whip in the intro. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years leading the league in Whip, including
yeah,
a point
sub
7,
one
yeah, sub one, and a
over
point
that
seven three
six.
seven in 2000. 0.737 Whip, that's unheard of. 3 Cy Youngs, finished second 2 other years. Um,
One
Obviously,
old man kicked one old man's ass kicked,
you know that didn't factor into my ratings, but hey, it's something. So yeah, Pedro Martinez for me was an easy consolation for my first pick. Now I could go 2 ways here with my next pick, and I thought I was set with where I was gonna go. um I hope that if I skip, I hope that I leave the other. So I hope you're not going to take it. So I'm actually going to jump on my big board to pick 4 instead of 3. And you had mentioned him earlier. I'm going to go with Clayton Kershaw. Um, Had to get a little creative with the time period for this one because he's obviously spent his entire career with the Dodgers. Again, we're limiting to a decade, less than a decade here, right? I really want to get that good stretch in there. So what I did, I said Clayton Kershaw from the years that the Diamondbacks made the playoffs for their 5th appearance to their 6th appearance. And that worked out just absolutely perfect, which was 2011
that
through
11 to
2017.
15,
So
17.
yeah, through 2017, both one D-backs won the West in 11, got the wild card in 17, nothing else in between there. But Kershaw was absolutely fantastic in those years. 118 and 41, a 210 ERA, 179 ERA plus. So again, still doing it. 1600 Ks, over a 10 K per nine. 3 Cy Youngs, also won a Gold Glove sprinkled in there, and the 2014 MVP award for a pitcher. That's a pretty big deal, especially in this kind of modern era, 2010s and current. You don't see that really too often, if at all. Um, we mentioned the whip again, 4 times leading the league in whip. What was his overall whip
Yeah,
for
for
that
that 6 year
period?
stretch, 0.913
Yep,
whip,
under
which is
one.
even better than I think the 7 year stretch of Pedro that we just saw.
Absolutely. I was surprised at the. I don't remember the K numbers being that high because if you look as well, the next year, 2018 is when they start to drop as well. He's obviously had some injury issues the last few years and whatnot, but still very effective ERA wise. But no, I'm getting prime dominant Kershaw with the K's as well. So very happy again to get Kershaw and to kind of pivot a little bit. I want to see where you go with these next 2 picks, but I'm happy to get Kershaw for the years again. Got creative 2011 through 2017.
Yeah, that's a good one there. He was definitely going to be one of my next 2 picks. Um,
Okay, good. I'm
so
glad I
obviously
did
that
snag him then.
takes the Dodgers off the board there. Um,
Yes, that's another one. Is Dodgers are off the board. Did you have another Dodger or two or anyone else that you had on your board?
I had Koufax on my board
Same.
just because of the shortened career and that stretch of dominance that he had. So
Did you? What was your
um,
period? I want to know what you kind of limited Koufax because I had a fun one.
so I was going to just do in the 60s. So
Okay,
just based on like the decade, because I could have also just done in Los Angeles. I think that comes out to like 9 years.
yeah, that was his whole
Um,
career. Yeah,
because you have the few years in Brooklyn and then the
got it.
rest in Los
Yep.
Angeles. But that's kind of where I was looking. What
So
delineation did you have there?
I had Sandy Koufax after he could rent a car. So age 25
25.
up, which was 61 to 66, which are, again, if you look at the stats, those are his real, maybe even
Yeah, the
elevated years. So another pitcher MVP, right? Yep, 1962 MVP, 3 Cy Youngs for those years. So outstanding. So Koufax was definitely high, high, high on my board. And I just very recently moved Kershaw even up. So Koufax was a good one. We didn't mention anything from the. Did you have another D back pitcher that is now no longer on the board or period since you took Jay?
so Brandon Webb for his career is 18th all time in ERA plus
Wow. Okay. Go
for like a
Webby.
career.
Yeah.
So that was going to be an honorable mention because obviously he's not going to touch Randy. Um,
Right.
but that I thought was pretty impressive.
Yeah. That is
Had a
great.
stretch where he could have been 3 straight Cy Youngs. Really, how dominant he was before he got hurt.
Yeah.
That was never seen from again.
I had a D backs Kurt Schilling low on my board, but he was on there as well for mid 2000 through 2003 really. Um,
Yeah, if we
you
could
know,
count just playoff performances, like he would probably be a lot higher on the list.
absolutely, absolutely. Okay, 2 picks for you, Derek, back to back. Where are you going? Again, I'm hoping you stay away from one of my sleepers here, but I we'll see where you go.
Man. So doing a little bit of finagling on the fly here, just based on what I did not expect Kershaw there. I'll just, I think I've got to go this and let me make sure I haven't pulled up, but I was going to do Toronto Clemens.
That's where I was gonna go. That's where I was gonna go.
Is that who you skipped?
Yep. That's who I skipped was Roger Clemens.
Yes. Um, I didn't basically want to spend the energy trying to find which stretches of time to figure out, like in Boston. Like I, debated like 80s, so 21 to 26, like 8 seasons for him. Those would have been really good. Also would have, debated 90s uh in Boston. Um, but the last couple seasons there, I feel like he just, wasn't as good. But the 2 seasons in Toronto, I feel like he just went, nuclear. He went
Phenomenal. Absolutely.
superhuman. some would say.
Oh yeah,
Um, there may have been, some reasoning with that, but
sure.
for just a 2 year stretch, won the Cy Young both years, in 97 and 98, um, 41 wins over those two seasons, um, tons of innings, almost 300 strikeouts both seasons, right around like a 105 whip, it looks like. An ERA plus the first season of 222 and 174 the next season. So 196 for the 2 year
Yeah,
stretch.
196, outstanding. Even again, it was a
Yeah.
2 year sample size, but
Also,
196
Pedro Martinez was in that league. Like he's contributing to those AL numbers. Like, there is still a lot of good pitchers at this time.
for that
And for
98
him to still
season.
be
Yeah.
that much better.
Yep.
Yeah, just
That's a great pick.
amazing.
I'm disappointed. I'm happy to get Kershaw, but I that was going to be my other pick was
Yeah.
Blue Jays Clemens. That's a fantastic pick.
Um, yeah, the stretch with the Yankees wasn't as good. Obviously, you took Boston off the board, so I can, pick one of those. So
Mhm.
that's, where I had to go there.
For your third pick, Derek.
And my third pick, so this is going to be a little bit of a weird time period, and I accidentally clicked an extra year here. But I'm going to say Verlander
Okay. I'm interested to hear how you
while
split this one up.
while I was at ASU.
Okay, so that is
So
oh
7 to
okay,
11.
there we go.
I guess technically I get '06. It was like fall '06,
Yeah,
to
you get the end of it at
2011.
least.
So a rookie of the year for him, Cy Young and MVP. 1,200 strikeouts in 1,300 innings. So not quite the, dominance there, 118 whip, but just was really good. And I also just didn't want to take him in Houston, basically. So
Okay.
that was the stretch that I found that, he still was amazing during that stretch, still was really good. Didn't get a lot of, help on some of those teams. Some of those teams were terrible. But the way he pitched and, during that stretch was amazing. So,
Yeah, I had two Verlanders written down as two options, which is the only player. I knew I was taking Pedro, that's why I didn't go into Clemens too deep, but because I knew he'd be removed. But I did have Astros Verlander and Tigers Verlander with Scherzer as a teammate, actually. So actually, not as much
oh, that's a
crossover,
good
which was
call.
2010 through 2014 is the Verlander that I had written down. But I actually, yeah, I'm not surprised, but interested that you went with the Tigers iteration. Obviously was dominant early on with the rookie of the year and the stats that you mentioned, but I felt like his time on the Astros, he actually has been more dominant. Even if you just look at ERA plus K per nine, again, my Tigers period was a little later than yours, so again, the numbers are different,
Yeah.
different there, but still, and you
No, that
captured.
probably would have been a better stretch to take, because he was much more dominant then. Can I do that on the fly? Can I swap that up?
I'll allow it. Why
Just
not?
take Houston?
You know,
It really is the better choice, like looking at these numbers, even with the injury in the middle.
I'll throw you a bone and we'll allow it on the fly. Astros Verlander, and this is another weird one because he left for half a season, in 23 to go to the Mets, but the years wise, I still have written down as just 17 to 24 because he's back on the
Yeah.
Astros now, obviously. So that was just a little, not sure what happened there. Okay, so next time, I think we know who's getting the number one overall pick on the next time we need to do this. So, okay.
That's fair. Yeah. I mean, you
Um,
just have to win the mini game, but
yeah, but I just keep picking bad mini games. Okay. So you have three. I back to me for two more. I This next one that I'm going to go with was I think my last top tier, if you will. That I was pretty sure on the order of, and I am going to go with. Let me pull him up here so I can read additional stats as I after I pick him. I'm going to go with Dwight Gooden.
oh,
On the Mets. Big in the 80s on the Mets. But I'm going Dwight Gooden before he could legally buy a beer. So he came up very early, was dominant at 19, dominant at 20, still very good at 21, and there and so on. But I had to stop it somewhere, Derek. So I just went with that 2 season sample size. Rookie of the Year in 1984, Cy Young in 1985, also finished second in Cy Young in that 1984 season as well. MVP votes as a pitcher both years as well. Led the league in ERA in 1985 with a 1.53 ERA. And that was over 276 innings, so not just a small sample size. Led the league in strikeouts both those years. Whip under one, somehow didn't lead the league with an under one whip in 1985, but led the league in 1984. We have been mentioning ERA plus, a 176 ERA plus, and a 9.9, so almost a 10 K per nine there as well. Extremely dominant Dwight Gooden on the Mets before, again, age 19, age 20. So it's just literally the years of 84 and 85. Smaller sample size, but hey, as we just talked about with Clemens, sometimes all you need is a 2-year sample size.
Yeah.
It was Gooden. Did Gooden show up at all on your list or your thought process?
I couldn't figure out like a good uh like era for him, like time period. I didn't even think the before I could buy a beer, that was a good way to do that. Um
And
so he was like a passing thought, but like then I couldn't figure out where to do it and
yeah,
then just decided not to include him.
and not trying to be insensitive. Gooden had some obviously substance abuse issues, so not trying to dig into that or talk about it at all. With literally just cutting it off at age 21 was the best that I could find for that or think of for that first year. Okay, now I am left with some hard choices here for my fourth pick. I think the board's a little open still for you and I. Not sure where you're going to go with some. Not sure where I'm going to go, but I'm left with two that I'm really debating on here. One was a drastically different pitchers, right? We had mentioned, some maybe we go with limiting base runners, some we go with high Ks and dominance. This is going to be a challenge. But man, I am gonna go. Oh, this is hard. I'm gonna go with the dominance factor over the finesse and just completely limiting factor. I'm gonna go with Nationals Max Scherzer. Um, and judging by your reaction, I'm happy that I went with Nationals Max Scherzer because I think you were maybe going to take him here when you end it. So we're looking at years of 2015 through 2021 is what I have written down. Yeah, 2015 through
Yep.
2021, 92 wins, a 2.80 ERA, 16 over 1600 Ks, 152 ERA plus, 11.8, almost a 10. That's the second highest K per nine that I have written down of my periods here, other than Randy Johnson at 11.9. So he's almost that.
Yeah.
Two Cy Young awards during that time too. Just again, this is really in kind of like the meat and bones recently of our baseball fandom too. These recent years, and it's just undoubtedly he has been the top pitcher of the generation. With his continued health during those years too, for the most part, just you want to hand the ball to a guy in the playoffs. For the most part, it's been Scherzer during this, his generation. So,
Oh
National
yeah.
Scherzer is definitely where I'm going with my fourth pick there, and I don't think, again, sample size wise, I don't think that removes maybe any other Nationals pitchers, but um,
No, I looked at like Strasburg to see if there
yeah,
was anything there, just but also Strasburg's just, obviously a soft spot in my heart for
yep.
him. But no, there was nothing you could even remotely pull up for him there.
Sample size, it was too small again, but I had playoff Strasburg as just a note with how ungodly he is in the playoffs. But again, too small of a
Yeah.
sample size. So okay, back to you to finish out your rotation here, Derek, with two picks.
Okay, so I'm struggling a little for my fifth. I was really hoping for Scherzer to fall here, but obviously you made a great pick there.
Glad I went there. Glad I went there. Yeah.
And so I don't know, you mentioned, the noodle arm, a little lighter throwing. So I'm gonna go with Greg Maddux.
Yep, that was him. Yep.
Um, in Atlanta while Smoltz was a starter.
Okay. I had kind of looked
So
at some of that too. So what years maybe are you looking at there?
93 to 99.
Okay.
And so there was one year here. So I'm gonna just do 93 to 99.
Yep.
2000s, like Smoltz was injured the entire year, so like theoretically I could include that or not include that.
Yep.
But uh, we'll just not include it just for the sake of doing this here. So we've got this 7 year stretch, 2.34 ERA, 1,600 innings, 1,200 strikeouts. Obviously, we did not expect that to be a high number.
Yep.
101 WHIP, uh, three straight Cy Youngs at the start of it. So it excludes his Cubs Cy Young, but the three straight there.
Yep.
I believe they had a World Series title in that stretch. He was third and fifth in MVP voting in 94 and 95. Uh, you know, some of these, going back to ERA plus, 271 in 94, 260 in 95. It's at 181 for that 7 year stretch. So just, he was not going to blow you away, but he was going to carve you up, and it was
Yeah.
going to make you look ridiculous in a different way.
And the gold, don't forget the gold gloves, right? Gold glove every year. I think
Oh
almost
yeah,
almost his career, but like every year during that stretch, definitely he's winning the gold glove too, which, hey, it's that's part of pitching. We're gonna count those. So yeah, Maddox was who I was debating between Scherzer and him. I had essentially the same years, except did not have 98 and 99 because my cutoff was Greg Maddox pre Diamondbacks existence on the Braves. So 93 to 97. Again, close enough sample size to what you're looking at.
yeah.
So that's a great pick. Maddox is one of those kind of really polarizing pitchers right now, right? Would he succeed in today's era of high velocity or not? But I got the guy was just a pinpoint precision accuracy there.
Yeah, he got a lot of help probably with the zones and how he was able to work that and
Yeah.
work umpires, and maybe in this day and age he would have a little bit of struggle with the K zone showing up and stuff like that. But I still think with his movements, I think he would be
Yeah.
perfectly fine there.
Yeah. Disgusting.
Um,
All right, close
yeah.
it out here for your last member of your rotation, Derek. I'm interested to see who you're going with. I only have a few left on my board, so I want to know who you're going with here.
So I am going to go with, and I don't know a way to cut this down. So I think I'm just gonna go. It's 8 years. I think I could just probably use the entire stretch. I want to say that this, I think I've got what, three righties and a lefty, so I'm going to grab another lefty
Okay.
for the rotation.
Hope it's not who I'm looking at.
And it's also someone I feel like we talked about recently in a comparison between players. So I'm going to go with Minnesota Twins,
It,
Johan
damn it.
Santana.
Yep. That's God damn it. That's literally who I was going to go with for my fifth. I'm disappointed.
Um,
Great pick. Great pick. Because
yeah,
lefty, so good.
he was that changeup and those, couple fastballs that he had just tearing people up, didn't know what was going.
Mm,
You know, really, if I'm grabbing his entire career in Minnesota, 93 and 44, 3.22 ERA, just because I couldn't really figure out a way to drop those first couple years, but
yeah.
really around one whip during the seasons. He was most dominant around 10K per nine. Just was, amazing there. A little bit, this stretch of ERA plus, for the whole stretch is 141 with Minnesota, which is pretty solid, but, had peaks
Mm-hmm.
of 182, 162 in his Cy Young seasons there in the, early mid
Yeah.
2000s. So,
Leading Ks for three straight years as well there, 04 to 06. Whip under, again, sub one whip, K per nine. Really disappointed in that one. I wanted to get him as my five starter. How I cut off those first couple years is it looks like the first 3 years, first 4 years, sorry. I just limited him on the Twins as a full time starter. So that's 04 to 07. So only a 4 year
Okay,
window there. It looks like obviously, coming out of the bullpen, split and start about half the time coming as a starter in those early
that's fair.
years. I would have lost at least that 2003 season. Even 2002 has a really good ERA as well. But I am disappointed, Derek, honestly, for that one. I really wanted Johan. I'm disappointed, yet also still going to go here with, you know, uh, awesome consolation prize to close out my rotation. I'm going to go with Bob Gibson, the guy they literally lowered the mound for because he was so dominant in
Because of yeah.
1968. Um, Bob Gibson, but again, he's another one of those that has a really, really long career to try to break up. And so, in order for me, 17 years all with one team, in order for me to get creative, I kind of looked at some of the years that I wanted to try to focus on and was able to find for the years of 1965 through 1971. That's what I'm looking at here, which again were dominant years for Gibson. He had Steve Carlton, another fantastic pitcher of all time, as a teammate on the Cardinals. So
Okay.
that's where I'm able to go. He had a 1-2 punch of Gibson and Steve Carlton. I'm going with Gibson over those 7 seasons, 135 and 73, 2.52 ERA. 16. I keep going with the 1600 Ks. That's like my fourth guy. Just over 1600 Ks, a 142 ERA plus. So that might be actually kind of maybe the worst ERA plus out of all these 10 pitchers that we've talked about for the period. A 7.7 K per nine was the lower second, just barely above Maddox, but a lot lower than I thought it would be. However, again, Gold Glove all 7 years, 2 Cy Youngs, and again a MVP award in 1968. Can't just push that aside. It's an MVP regardless of whether it's eras and timing. MVP as a pitcher, a 1.083 WHIP as well. So again, limiting base runners, just over um one per inning. Yeah, the 1968 season, a 1.12 ERA. That's right, a 1.12
Wow.
ERA. Again, they lowered the mound, I think 5 feet or somewhere the next year, specifically because of how dominant he was. 13 shutouts in 1968, 268 Ks, a 258 ERA plus in that one season. So, flamethrower from all accounts, right? Really, really hard throwing pitcher as well. Bob Gibson, with Steve Carlton as a teammate, getting a little specific there, but 1965 through 1971 is where I'm going. So, Derek, go ahead, read your rotation here as we close down the video here.
All right, so I've got the first hit in Arizona, Randy Johnson. I've got Toronto Clemens. I've got Houston Verlander with the assists from you.
Sure.
I've got Atlanta Maddox while John Smoltz was also a starter.
Yep.
And then Minnesota, Johan Santana.
And then for mine, I went Red Sox Pedro, Clayton Kershaw between D-backs playoff stints, and Dwight Gooden before he could buy a beer legally. Nationals Max Scherzer, and then close it out here with Bob Gibson with Steve Carlton as a teammate. So just another maybe few seconds here, Derek, to kind of just, do you have any that are still on your board that we did not go over?
So there was one that I debated between him and Santana really for the last pick. But I just decided to go with Johan there. But Jose Fernandez,
Ooh, good one.
I
Yeah,
really thought about his 4 year stretch, just career 11.2 strikeouts per nine, 104 whip, 2.58 ERA.
yeah,
Just was amazing
it's
in
good.
those 4 years.
That's a good one. I went Angels, California Angels. Nolan Ryan was on my board. Just Nolan Ryan is who he is.
That's fair.
So yeah. All right, yeah, thanks for watching, everybody. Let us know in the comments again whose starting rotation is better. Does Derek take this one? He had a lot of people from the basketball video that sided with Derek. So does Derek's rotation better? Is Josh's rotation better? Let us know who we missed as well in the comments, who you would have had. And again, consider subscribing. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you guys next time.